Southern Quality Ford Friday Night Blitz continues.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, the old heartbeat of the city getting it done.
Welcome back to the Southern Quality Ford Friday Night Blitz, guys. First week of the playoffs wrapping up here in Louisiana and Arkansas. So let's take a look back at a few of the games, and let's start with Captain Shreve getting that first playoff win since 2005. Tim, you were out at that game at Lee Hedges Stadium. Just talk about what happened tonight.
DJ Fleming happened. You see him taking the ball in right here, but they handed him the ball a lot the entire game. It was one of those things where it was like, I don't know what was going on. I don't know. They did not throw the ball very much, and they kept handing it to Fleming, kept handing it to him, and he was getting 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2 yards a carry. But on the last drive of the game, when they needed him to come up big, he did, and it was a big long run off the left side. You'll see it here in a few minutes in these highlights. Big long run off the left side, then a big long run off the right side. Then he gets into the end zone, and he said to me after the game, he said, "We're the real Gators. This is our swamp." So this is a big win, though, because
huge.
In the last time, it's actually, I believe, it's Captain Shreve's first ever 5A playoff victory, because in 2005 and 6 they were 4A, and I believe in 1996 they were still 4A. And so this is their first playoff victory on the 5A level. It's a big win for the Gators. And what do they get next? West
by God Monroe.
Well, speaking of that, though, I was talking with Coach Sepulvedo a few weeks ago, before their matchup against Evangel, and he said, he's been telling the guys, why not us? You don't have to. It saves you a long road trip. You just go over to Monroe. Why can't we go in there and shock the team? And we'll see what could happen next week. You get on that field. Anything could happen. Maybe Captain Shreve goes over to West Monroe and they get a win and come back home.
They've got they got size.
That's the thing. That's what I've said all year long. This is the biggest Captain Shreve football team I've seen probably in a decade. And that's why they match up with an Evangel,
right?
And some of the other teams that they're going to face. So in that perspective, yes, they can match up physically with West Monroe, but not. We just talked about Rodney Duron Field. Yeah, you got to go over to Don Chow Stadium and play the Rebels, and that's not an easy place to play. I've broadcast a number of Bird playoff games and district games. I'll never forget back, it was probably in the late 90s or early 2000s. We went over there, and they had beaten Bird 21-0 in a driving rainstorm earlier in the year at then Caddo Parish Stadium. And we drew them in the first round, and it was cold and rainy. We're feeling good after the kickoff. Throw a swing pass, it gets picked off. It was 40-something to nothing, like 45-0 at half, or 42-0 at halftime. So tough place to play, but you know what? Hey, they got there.
And if they can get over there, and it's one of those things when you're the underdog, you got to punch a team in the mouth. You have to let them know that you have to make them think, wait a minute. Maybe they are good enough to beat us. I mean, that's what you have to do.
Well, and the thing is like we talked about earlier, Brad, Shreve's defense is really good and keeps them in games. So their offense may not be spectacular. They do have a two-headed monster in Fleming and Frierson, who didn't play at all tonight.
Right.
But their defense is good enough where it's going to keep them in football games. And again, we talked about just a minute ago, West Monroe has a history and a propensity to put the football on the ground with what they do or what they have done. Shreve can get a turnover here, a turnover there. You never know.
Defense scores a touchdown. It changes everything.
They did tonight.
Right. Well,
Won them ball game.
That was a big hit, man.
Let's run through these last few games now. Arkansas High Razorbacks, they were taking on Nettleton, get a big win to move on to the next round, 27-7. That was a big win over a Nettleton team that was tied for their conference championship. It comes in as the 4 seed because of a 4-way tie. Arkansas High is a team that very well could be one of the favorites in 5A to go on to War Memorial and win a state championship.
We've been saying it all year. I mean, in our 23 and 23, our preseason, previews, I said that with Arkansas High going down and having so much back, and they've had some injuries too. Collier wasn't their starting running back at the beginning of the season. It was the Hall kid. That they had a chance to make a run, and then after seeing what's the team that never kick off, they never punt?
Pulaski
Academy. After seeing Pulaski Academy at Parkway, and I've seen Arkansas High too. Arkansas High is every bit as good as Pulaski Academy.
Well, I think you talked about earlier that this wasn't any Nettleton team. This was a four-way district champion. And I saw your interview with Coach Norton that said that, hey, well, wait a second. They're not just some some low seed. They're a district champion. It's a really good football team, and they won by 3 touchdowns tonight.
Yeah, big win for Arkansas High. I'm going to run through these last 2 games real quick. The Manny Tigers, they get the big win over Ville Platte, 76-0. They've been left at the semifinal door the last 2 years, losing to the eventual state champs. This team, though, might be the one that finally breaks them through as they go on to get the win. Now, going over to Texas, the Marshall Mavericks win their 18th straight district game. They finished district play 7-0, and now go into the playoffs. They'll be taking on the 4 seed from that, it's a mouthful here, 5A Division II District 10, and that team is going to be Lamar. That team's going to be Lamar Consolidated, but Lamar Consolidated coming into the game with a 7-3 record, and over their last 2 games, outscored opponents 107-14. So the Mavericks, same sort of deal with that Nettleton team up in Arkansas High. Mavericks not getting a slouch opponent early on.
I went over and saw Marshall one time this year, okay, and it was in that driving rain. They've got defensive players, they've got like a good defense, but then offensively, they have these weapons that can get out to the right or the left, including the quarterback. They can score on anybody. They can stop anybody. I think they can make a little bit of a run here in the playoffs.
Yeah, Claude Mathis' team, really churning as they were going into the postseason last year with going undefeated in district play. So we'll see how that all plays out, starting next week. Charlie, I want to thank you for joining us on the show here tonight and coming in on Birds bye week. And thank you for tuning in, every week. We got one more Friday Night Blitz coming your way. That's next Friday. We'll see you there. Have a good night.